Yes, sir. We're officially back at it. Boog Nice coming at you with the Marvel Legends 60th Anniversary X-Men Villains 5-pack review. Let's do it.
This ain't for no scalper. You a scalper? Then fuck out shit. This one's for them real collectors. That's army building and posing figures. Marvel Legends, imports, mini matey, I'm fucking with them. Hype beast, we know about you. Stay buying figs, don't know about.
Alright, here we go. 60th Anniversary Villains 5-pack. I'm gonna go from least accessorized figure to the most accessorized figure. So up first is Random Marshall Evan Stone III, who first appeared in X Factor number 88 in March of 1993. He was created by Peter David and Joe Quesada. He's a mutant with the ability to kind of change his appearance, his size, and create these bio-organic kind of weapons that shoot biomatter projectiles. Now, this is our first Random in the life of the Marvel Legends line, but I can remember back in the day in the old Toy Biz line, I did have the 5-inch version of Random. Pretty sure he made an appearance on the X-Men animated series back in the day. So it looks like they may be reusing a few parts from the Gamerverse Hulk Build-A-Figure Wave Thunderstrike figure, at least the vest, maybe the legs, maybe some portions of the boots with some newly sculpted parts at the bottom and the top. Obviously this portion of his arm is brand new, although the upper portion, the biceps and the shoulders, I'm sure we've seen before. He's got pins in the elbows and knees, brand new head sculpt. You can see the shades, you can see his do-rag. Why do they insist on having these things flowing? But I've seen people saying that he should be larger. Again, he can change his size at will, so in the base form, I guess you could kind of fudge this as the right size for his base form. Now, I told you I'm going least accessorized to the most. Random has nothing packed in with him. Now, if you want to consider the jacket an accessory, you can remove the jacket. The shades are not removable. The fact that they did not include one additional interchangeable arm for some different shaped formed weapon, this inside of a 5-pack, mind you, it's just unfortunate because he is a nice looking figure. They reuse parts from Thunderstrike nicely, seamlessly. They use the right parts, I believe, and added on the new things that make sense. But no additional arm or no additional angry gritted teeth head sculpt. It takes away from the fun factor, from the playability, from the posability, from the ability to create displays and A.C.B.A. and toy photography. Now I can see some customizers taking to him and just popping off the arm at the upper bicep swivel and sculpting something custom, but the fact that you have to do that is the problem. Random has been a part of quite a few different teams in the books: the Acolytes, the Brotherhood of Mutants, Dark Descendants, Strike Force, X Factor, Utopians, and Sword. Man, even a powered down arm would have been nice. I don't think his arm is always shaped as a weapon. I don't believe so. I believe he's kind of always like kind of changing and morphing and what have you. But overall, a nice looking figure. They got the tattoo. They couldn't put a tattoo on the NBA players. You could see the zipper and some different buttons and colors, and they went the distance as far as painting the vest, the belt to the vest, his actual belt for his pants. It's a separate part. Nice textures and colors. It's a good looking figure overall. Next up is Vertigo, aka Vertigo. I don't know if she has any other name, but this is a character that first appeared in Marvel Fanfare #1 in March of 1982. She was created by writer Chris Claremont and artist Michael Golden. She is a Savage Land mutate, so she is a native of the Savage Land with the ability to induce extreme disorientation, nausea, and even unconsciousness in her victims. A first-timer in the life of the Marvel Legends line. She has team affiliations, obviously, with the Savage Land mutates, as she is a genetically engineered Savage Land mutate. The Marauders, which is probably where most people recognize her from. I think she was part of the Marauders when she appeared in the X-Men animated series. And the Femazons. Now, her powers have been depicted as these sort of like circular waves of psionic energy. Unfortunately, she wasn't packed in with anything to represent her power set. She has two open hands with the fingers slightly spread out of the package. I mean, obviously you could use these to kind of look like she's doing her nauseating 1-2, but with no actual physical effect. It's kind of whack. These hands look similar to the size, the sculpt of the hands that we received with the Shang-Chi movie female characters, if I'm not mistaken. So you may be able to actually get a few more sculpts and swap those on for a little added playability and posability. She also has two fists fist, and that's it. No additional accessories with her. Costume is pretty much just green and white, green hair, green lipstick. Maybe you could swap this head onto one of your Polaris figures or something like that. Also reminds me of Agent Brand with the green hair, green lipstick. This is the female buck that doesn't quite have double jointed elbows, but does have a really decent bend. You're not going to get much movement in the upper torso. The legs will come up about that far. Upper thigh swivel, double jointed knee. You get a pivot and a hinge on the foot. Typical neck peg. Obviously the head neck articulation will be hindered a little bit by her hair. A welcomed addition to the collection, being as though we never received her in the Marvel Legends line. Kind of sick of seeing this adolescent looking female body, and I wish they would mimic some of the artwork and get back to the more voluptuous female bodies, but it is what it is. For the record, I did break out a few different hand sculpts. These hands are, I believe, from the old Hasbro 2-pack Electra. You can see the fingernails are painted red. Skin tones don't quite match up, and you could definitely use some of the additional hands that came with one of those female characters from the Shang-Chi wave. Skin tones match up better, and it's the right size, right proportions. This flat palm in particular is useful. The other kind of cupped hands, I mean, I guess you could probably put something in her hand if you wanted to have her hold something, but yeah, enough of her. Up next is Stryfe, aka Cable, as he is a human mutant clone of the X-Man Cable. This is one I was really looking forward to in this pack. This is actually our second Stryfe in the life of the Marvel Legends line. The first one came in the very small Jubilee Build-A-Figure wave many years ago. Some decent upgrades on this particular one. Obviously, I'll get the original in here for some comparisons, but Stryfe first appeared in New Mutants number 86 in February of 1990. Created by writer Louise Simonson and artist Rob Liefeld. Stryfe is a pretty powerful character with abilities including telekinesis, telepathy, superhuman strength, and durability. And like I mentioned, although Stryfe is a clone of Cable, he's able to utilize the power set that they both share a lot more efficiently because he was never affected by the techno-organic virus that Cable was. So again, he's pretty powerful. Utilizing his telekinetic abilities, he can fly or levitate. He could create vast like force fields, read minds, manipulate minds. You know, being that he's got superhuman strength and durability, he could just deck the shit out of you. But half the time he doesn't even touch anybody. He's just using his telekinesis to dispense enemies. He's got 2 sets of interchangeable hands. He actually came with the other set out of the package. I put the fist on here first, and then he's got a set of hands that are open with the fingers slightly spread. And that's it. Another missed opportunity for jazz hands. Somebody who's using telekinesis, you know, you need a couple of different hand sculpts to really kind of sell that. Now, I will say that the upgrades on this figure in relation to the previous figure is probably where some of the budget went, and that's probably why he wasn't packed in with much. He does have a brand new head sculpt with some additional sculpting on these portions here. Like I said, I'll break out the original version. The lower jaw, the lips, the chin is all different. He's got a little bit of stubble on the chin. This is very nice and more menacing and more comic accurate as well. They also swapped out the old arms and legs, so he's all pinless. Not too much going on in terms of colors, mostly silver gray with like a teal color, I guess, in the abdominal area. I don't think the sculpt for the cape is new. It's just newly painted. It's very heavy too. So swapping this out for something that's soft goods would probably make this guy a lot better. He could definitely use a little wash to kind of bring out the sculpt and really bring out the armor parts. He would photograph a lot better. But yeah, pretty typical neck peg for Marvel Legends. Ball jointed shoulder, upper bicep swivel, double jointed elbow, swivel and hinge on the wrist, double jointed knees. I feel like the older version had rotation at the boot here. That was a missed opportunity, I think, but I'll break him out in 1 second. Hinge and pivot on the feet. This part of the armor is a separate part, but again, a lot of these pieces just look too plasticky. With the proper wash, you could really make this something special. So there you go, the old Jubilee Build-A-Figure Wave version and the newer version. Some pretty stark contrast, especially on these head sculpts. I mean, that old head sculpt is caca. They really did a good job on this newer sculpt. Again, more comic accurate, more menacing, more detail, and I like the overall color scheme of the newer version without all of this like darker gray. The armor parts look a lot better, but again, not really a lot of paint. He appears to be a little taller with this newer version. Maybe it's just the head sculpt, but I'm assuming because they had to swap out out the legs and use the pinless legs, that he may be just a tad bit taller. It appears that the sculpt for the cape is the same, again, just a different color. So if you missed out on the previous version, you're all good. You didn't miss out on much. The newer one is obviously superior. And yeah, you can do that. And this is probably the better, more succinct version, but he has the communications device, the earpiece or what have you. So if you have more than one of this version of Cable, then I suppose you could pull this off and maybe sculpt an ear back or whatever the case may be. But if this didn't have the earpiece, it would look very good. Should be noted that the older version has some different hand sculpts, but I think every figure in that Jubilee Build-A-Figure wave had the hands fixed into the wrist and you couldn't really remove them. So I couldn't pull these out. I do have two of this figure though, so maybe I might try to still heat and pop it. I know for certain the Jubilee Build-A-Figure had that like wrist peg that was kind of hooked on the end, because I did actually pull one of the hands off of her and technically it broke, but not really. I was able to put it back in, but yeah, it's not like a modern typical peg that you see nowadays. This doesn't quite work, but this is one of the extra hands that came with I guess Donald Pierce from the Hellfire Club box set. It's a little small, the colors don't really match, but and there's a quick look at that. This is how the two Cables that we have so far stack up next to Stryfe. The sort of 90s classic version on the left and the more modern version on the right. So absolutely an upgrade on the original version, but still leaves a bit to be desired. Up next is Pretty Boy, aka Pretty Boy. I don't think we've ever found out his real name, so that's what we're gonna go by. Pretty Boy first appeared in Uncanny X-Men number 229 in May of 1988. A very integral member of the Reavers team. In fact, we saw the full first appearance of the Reavers team in that same comic book in 1988. A first timer in the life of the Marvel Legends line. Brand new body and head sculpt for this figure, although I do believe they're going to be using this body again. Now, the Reavers are a group of mutant hunting, half human, half cyborg killers, and Pretty Boy's look has always been evolving and changing. They're always upgrading as they change parts and stuff like that. And while I wouldn't say that this particular look is his first appearance look, it is a classic look for him, and it looks close enough to early depictions of the character to me. They really did a good job on his head sculpt. This is very nice. Again, brand new. I'd be interested to see how he looks with like a trench coat or something on, or maybe some parts swapped out. This is a good body to kit bash, especially for some half human, half cyborg. He's not even half, he just got the human head. But the body here could definitely use a wash and some more details. This is something that you customizers and kit bashers could take to and really bring this figure to life a bit more. Overall though, he's a good looking figure. Two fists attached to him out of the package. He's also got two hands with the trigger fingers extended, as he is packed in with a couple of weapons. He is proficient in the use of all types of weaponry. You know, I mentioned that some customizers could probably take to him and swap out some parts and stuff like that. He can quote unquote telescope his limbs, sort of like Machine Man or something like that. So some additional parts to display that ability would have been nice, but let's get the guns out. He's packed in with a couple of pistols with extended magazines, the Extendo as the young kids like to call it. Not the greatest amount of detail, but pretty cool, and they do actually have small peg holes in the front of each weapon, which allow you to plug in two more of his accessories. Some blast effects here. Why they are green, I don't know. We've seen these plenty of times before. Originally, I think they came with the War Machine figure. So if you do have that figure, you can just swap these out for the traditional sort of reddish orange version. And then he's also got a couple of smoke effects in the same color. Again, we've seen this scope before. We've seen these plenty of times before. And then that's it for Pretty Boy in terms of accessories. Two sets of interchangeable hands, two pistols, two blast effects, two smoke effects. The head does pop off. It's a barbell double ball peg in the neck there. The neck down to the collarbone, or what would be his collarbone, that area does not move, so the head just kind of rotates on that ball peg. Nothing really hindering the articulation in terms of the head. Shoulders on ball joints, they'll come up about that far. You can actually do a full 360. Upper bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, swivel and hinges on the wrists. The upper torso articulation right above this sort of thin abdominal track here. He can rotate here at the waist. He can do a perfect split. There is like what looks like a barbell joint on both of the ball pegs on the upper thigh that attach to the pelvic area, I guess. Legs will come up forward about that far. There is rotation at the upper thigh. Single hinged knee. There is no rotation anywhere here on the shin, calf, what have you, upper boot, whatever you want to call it. But there is a hinge and a nice deep pivot on the feet. Almost looks like there's a cut right there at the toe joint, but there isn't. There's a quick little size comparison, some reverse action. On the far left is actually the Nuke figure with the additional head that came packed in with Skullbuster, if I'm not mistaken. I've seen people utilize the Gung Ho figure to do this as well, but technically the three figures in the middle are the official kind of full-on releases of some of the members that we have. Well, and Lady Deathstrike. But yeah, Skullbuster, Pretty Boy from this box set, and then the Bone Breaker Builder figure. Again, on the far left was sort of like my makeshift version of Macon, is it? Or Deacon, or one of the two, who knows? And then the Lady Deathstrike figure on the right, which still holds up really nice. It would have been nice to have an additional head sculpt for her, for all of these guys actually. A more neutral look for Bone Breaker, an additional head sculpt here for Pretty Boy. That's a bit more dynamic, and something more dynamic for Skullbuster as well. But we do have the sort of Hellfire Club box set Donald Pierce, but not him with the look that he had when he was kind of running this crew. And guess what still holds up after all of these years? This Gambit coat from the Toy Biz Gambit. I'm gonna try this on Pretty Boy. I'm actually gonna put it aside and hold it for the Jim Lee costumed X-Men 3-pack, that Gambit. As we know, that guy's not gonna come with a coat. Yeah, look at that, not bad. Hopefully it'll fit on Gambit as well. So yeah, you know, like I said, definitely a lot of opportunities for kit bashing and customizing this guy. Should be noted that, you know, all of these dudes with the cybernetic parts, they've got superhuman strength and stamina, durability, stuff like that, the basics. Yeah, look at that. Colors don't really match up, but it works. And while I got Machine Man out, I never did this actually, even though it's not really the correct look for him to have the jacket. He had a different sort of look as far as his head goes when he was rocking the jacket, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, last and certainly not least, as he comes with the most accessories, or with the most plastic. Technically, Pretty Boy had the most accessories, but Zero here has the largest amount of plastic used for an accessory. Looks to me like they used the Spider UK buck here for Zero, which I think is fitting. And although he is part of a X-Men sort of themed box set here, and a villain to X-Men X-Force, he is not a mutant, he's not even a human, he is an android from the future. Zero and others like him were created by these sort of futuristic builders called the Ascani, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And they're supposed to be part of this peacekeeping force, also known as ADAMS, which stand for Ambient Energy Dampening Automated Peacekeeping Mechanisms. That's a mouthful. Like Stryfe, he first appeared in New Mutants number 86. Often connected to Stryfe, he's like Stryfe's sort of right-hand android, as one of his main abilities is the ability to teleport, and he's often seen teleporting Stryfe around. Now, originally the character was mute and just obeyed Stryfe's orders, but I think at some point he did gain the ability to speak, but I feel like his speech was limited in capacity. Nothing crazy here in terms of paint deco. He's got the black circle on his head and chest. He comes with 2 fists out of the package. He also has 2 hands that are open, flat palms with the fingers close together. And then a great reuse of parts here. This was the same sort of teleport ring that we got with the Defender Doctor Strange, the Target or Walmart exclusive Doctor Strange. And they reused it here for Zero to represent him creating his portal, which he does spatially without having to traverse the space between wherever he's teleporting from and to, if that makes sense. But in terms of accessories, that's it. Again, a big piece here packed in, the 2 interchangeable hands, and pretty much that's it. Would have been really nice to have some all white jazz hands for this guy. Again, he's not going to speak, so we don't really need any additional head sculpts with the kind of circle in the middle changed in any way, but the hands for more expression would have been a nice pack in for sure. And I don't think we've ever received any all white open jazz hands. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. Typical Marvel Legends ball peg at the neck with the hinge that allows you to put the head that far down and all the way back to look up. Shoulders come up pretty far. You can do a full 360, upper bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, swivel and hinge on the wrist, ab crunch forward. that far back, T-joint at the pelvis, leg will come up that far, upper thigh swivel, double jointed knee, and a hinge and a pivot on the foot. There he is with Stryfe. You know, when both of them first appeared, they appeared with other members of the Mutant Liberation Front. It would be nice to see Hasbro try to round out that team. I'd love to get a forearm, but although Zero is the most sort of minimal bare bones figure in the pack, in terms of the look, he is pretty much true to form. He does look exactly like his comic book counterpart for the most part. And there's the whole crew together, everybody from this box set. It was sort of like a random box set, but definitely some villains that we need. Cool to see some first timers in the Life of the Marvel Legends line, but the set is kind of marred by the lack of accessories, and that seems to be the theme with Marvel Legends as of late. This set could have been phenomenal with just some additional heads and hands packed in here. With that said, it's still one I would recommend because, again, you need these individual characters to start to build some villains teams and to kind of pit some of your heroes against when you set up your displays and set up your shelves and what have you. So it is still one I would recommend. Hopefully you can find it at a discounted price. But yes, stay tuned for some shots from me on Instagram. Don't forget to follow me there at Boog_A.C.B.A. And thanks for hanging out. As always, rate, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell down there. And until next time, peace.
I'm in the game, I'm grinding, I got to play 24 hours in a day, 7 days out the week, I never sleep. I'm on my grizzly bear, 52 weeks out the year, yeah.